Surfin with Hopeless.
Hey everybody, Nick Belezzo, Hopeless Guitar Enthusiast here with you once again. And if you're back with me watching one of these videos, you are a huge nerd. But don't worry, your secret's safe with me. I'm trying to wink. On this episode of Guitar Surfing with Hopeless, we're going to go away from the game show format and we're going to go on to the reverbings.com and go take a look at, by the way, that was a joke, it's just reverb.com. We're going to try to take a look at some original Fender custom colors. So please join me for custom color shopping.
Custom color shopping.
Now, nothing makes me go ape poopy more than an original Fender custom color guitar from the 60s. And in particular, I love greens. Anything in any shade of green, I love. I love all custom colors, don't get me wrong. They're all rare and they're all beautiful in their own right. There's something about greens. In my research, greens are really the rarest of the custom colors. And to be honest with you, going on Reverb's not the best representation of all the custom colors that are out there or even for sale at a given time. These guitars are really so rare that they change hands privately, they get locked into vaults or they get put up in museums, and we never really get to see them enter the light of day. I check Reverb, I check eBay, I check the high-end guitar stores, and yeah, every once in a while, one will pop up, but these guitars are so valuable, so rare, that it's unlikely that we'll just see some guy post it for sale independently on Reverb. But nevertheless, we're going to take a look and see if we can find an original, legit example that's not a refin. Now, greens are so rare that anytime I see a 60s Fender listed and it's in a green, I almost immediately just assume refin, and it usually is. Now, they did do factory refins back in the 60s, and it's very cool to see an original, say, surf green guitar that was a factory refin from Fender, but yet again, this is still just a refin guitar. But most of the time, it's done either poorly or by an independent luthier. So I got the reverb.com up here. So let's go looking for some Fender custom color greens. There were actually 5 different greens. There was surf green, seafoam green, and Sherwood green metallic on the original custom color sheet from 1960. Those colors lasted until 1965. They kept foam green, but then they replaced the other greens with teal green metallic and ocean turquoise metallic. Now again, all these greens are very rare in their own right. However, the CBS era greens are almost non-existent. I rarely ever see a teal green or ocean turquoise that's legit. So let's start out with a Fender teal green metallic. All I'm going to put in the search box is Fender teal green, and what we're going to do is we're going to filter the matches by high to low, because if there is something that's a legit or vintage example, it's going to be the most expensive thing in this search. Yeah, so right off the bat, the most expensive guitar that we have is a Koa-topped thin line Strat that's got a teal green back. That's kind of weird. Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of your basic real woody guitar. Probably never gets played, just lives its life and it's in the case with its certificate of authenticity, but it's a cool, unique guitar. Now, every once in a while, something vintage, I want to look, maybe there'll be like a refin here that pops up. And some of the lower line guitars, the less collectible models, will also get mixed in because they don't go for as big money as, let's say, like a Strat or a Telly. So sometimes you see a Jaguar, though, even a Jaguar that's in a legit rare color, it still go 8, 10K plus. Sometimes you'll see like a Coronado, like the thin line guitars, the semi-hollows from the late 60s, but those will go for 3,000 and up. A color like teal green, I've never seen it in a Coronado, but it probably does exist. Here's one that looks really cool. I'm just kind of showing some examples that I think are really cool. This one's listed as a 62 reissue, but it's got a maple neck on it and a gold, not a gold guard, a aluminum anodized guard. I'm not huge on relics. I mean, I do love beat up Strats, but some of the relics do look really fake. However, I really like the vibe of this one. It is beat to crap, and it doesn't have a period accurate neck. It's got a one-piece neck, so it's kind of a mashup of 60s and 50s style. However, this is a cardinal sin right here. don't put your legs and your feet in your guitar listing photos. I know if you're a member of the My Les Paul forum, that's something that they always get on people is when the feet show up. There's always dudes in sandals that show pictures of guitars for sale. So that's a cardinal sin. But yeah, this is a really nice looking guitar. So it's like some 2012 special. $7 grand marked down to $3,750. It's a deal, 47% price drop. Yeah, pick it up. I'm in no space to buy it right now, but John's Gear Shop in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's a cool guitar. Okay, so it's pretty obvious we're not gonna see a legit teal green metallic Fender, and I figured that was the case. So let's go look for ocean turquoise. That was the other CBS era. This color has come into vogue quite recently in the last few years. We see it even on like the regular USA models, some of the Mexican-made guitars. So we might have to do a little bit of sifting here, but again, we're going to do price high to low because if one shows up, it's legit, it'll be at the top. It's obviously not a Fender guitar pick. Well, let's see here. Well, again, we've got some high-end custom shop guitars, $5,000, $4,900. Not really getting an authentic ocean turquoise guitar, just making sure that something's not mixed in here. When you see the same thing over and over again, it's kind of cool when something pops out at you. And what I noticed right here, this is Empire Music. They've got a 67. A 67 is rare for an original Fender guitar. They were made, but I think they had so many 66 parts that a lot of these guitars that were shipped in 67 were really all made of 66 dated parts. And this is kind of cool because it's unusual to see like a 67 setup. I know they did 66s like 10, 15 years ago, but this one looks like it's got some kind of like roasted neck, and it's cool. It's got the CBS era headstock, the large headstock, but with the trans era logo on there. These pictures are really dark. Come on, brighten up your pictures, folks. God. But this is really cool. I do love these era guitars because it's got the white pick guard, but the plastic covers and knobs are aged. The big pearl dots. It's a really cool looking guitar. I would definitely love to own something like that. Yeah, so an American original 60s. Some cool stuff, but definitely nothing that's legit. Okay, so let's move on to one of the early custom color chart guitars, Sherwood Green Metallic. Again, we're gonna have to do some sifting here because Sherwood Green has been a popular reissue color. It's popular in the custom shop. They have done several AVRI reissue runs on this color. So let's see what we got here. Yeah, again, past the bump, we're not really getting anything. We've got a $7,200 master built guitar. That looks pretty cool. Vintage custom shop. I say vintage in quotes because it's from 1989, but it's one of the first years of the custom shop. This is a really cool looking mashup 6063 with Sherwood. Excuse me, sorry. Sherwood Green Metallic over Sunburst, which was very common to see three-tone Sunburst underneath custom colors. They used it as a base, so it might have been a reject body or a flaw in the finish. And what's interesting is a lot of these greens don't look Sherwood green to me. They look limey, kind of like faded out or a light green. And Sherwood green is kind of like a really deep, rich green, like an Irish green. And I'm not seeing that. All these Fender custom shops are all like faded, aged Sherwood Green Metallic. So I'm trying to find one that kind of looks more authentic, that more deep, rich green color. And all these are like aged and faded for the most part. I'm trying to find a good example. Oh, here's a good example. This is a really cool guitar. I actually owned this exact model. Maybe not this exact guitar, but it's a 2007 American vintage Hot Rod 62 Strat in Sherwood Green. And this is more of what a Sherwood Green would look like when it was new. It's got more of a deep, rich tone to it. I'm particularly fond of this guitar because it's actually got that large C-shaped neck, and I love large necks. So I bought mine like in 2012. I've owned several Sherwood Green AVRIs, but I've only owned one that was the Hot Rod series, and they made a 57, which actually had a Seymour Duncan like split rails in the bridge, and then this one with the big neck. Man, he wants $2,400 for it. See, I paid like $1,200 with shipping on mine in like 2012, so I don't know, maybe I made a mistake by getting rid of it, but of course, like everything, I needed money right away. But it's a really cool guitar, and this one's got a little bit of nicks and dings, but a nice example.
Just as a quick aside on a non-vintage Fender in Sherwood Green Metallic, one of the guitars that I'm always on the lookout for are these Johnny Marr Jaguars that they did in this color back in 2014. According to this listing, they said they did a run of 250, worldwide 50 only for the US market. Not sure if that's accurate, but sounds about right. But I love this Jaguar because it's got the altered electronics, and this is the first time where we see that switch replacing the switch plate here, which is now put on all the standard production guitars. But I think the original ones in Ollie White and Metallic KO look great, but I'd love to own one in Sherwood Green Metallic. But they're just so rare. And this guy, he's in Germany, but he's selling it for almost $3,500, which is actually kind of crazy for a non-custom shop Jaguar, but who knows? Maybe he'll get it. He's probably banking on the rarity of it. But while shopping, I saw this one, which was listed as a custom refin, but taking a look at it, man, it looks so good. I thought the guy didn't know what he had, but in the description, he does say it was a Metallic KO and he had it professionally refinished. And I don't know, I think he's kind of dreaming at this $2,100 here, because you can normally snag a standard finish Johnny Marr Jag if you're on the guitar forums, if you're patient, around $1,200, maybe $1,400, and any refin's going to hurt the value. But this one is such a nice looking refin. I would maybe even consider paying him around the going rate for a standard finished used one. But go figure, if you're really into this guitar and you want it in this finish, this job is going to cost you $500, $600. So I wouldn't laugh at you if you paid close to that, because hell, if you got an original finish, you'd have to get it refinished. They go for new around $1,800. So maybe you can get it around $18 to $2K. But if you really want the guitar, I wouldn't call you an idiot for pulling the trigger on this one. This is a really nice looking refin on a Johnny Marr Jag. And they also did do a run last year in Lake Placid Blue, which I also wanted. I almost bought one, but I was putting offers in on houses at the time and I couldn't spend a single dollar. I was afraid to buy lunch, so I resisted temptation. This is why I want to make these videos, just because there's so much confusion over all the custom colors, and you can really get duped or confused on which ones are actually rare, which ones are refin, and the market will vary greatly depending on the model and who did the refin.
So speaking of stuff that's mixed in, like for instance, here's a 1960 Duo Sonic that was refinned in Sherwood Green. Tons of lacquer checking. Obviously, this probably was done by someone who didn't know what they were doing, because it's completely separating off the body in huge chunks. And around 1960, this was probably the second version of Desert Stand. Man, what the hell happened here? Yeah, so something's going on. So you can kind of see, it looks like they might have the original finish poking through at parts there. But basically, this was the second variation of Desert Sand. Yeah, so this one's definitely not legit at all. They want $2,000 for it. Okay, so no Sherwood Green. I figured as much. So let's move on to Seafoam Green. Seafoam Green was actually a color that was introduced in '60, but was retained through the rest of the '60s. It wasn't discontinued until the 1970 price list. Even though they're super, uber rare, the Seafoam Greens seem to have been documented the most. Of course, this is Spinal Tap Scene with Nigel Tufnell. There's a Seafoam Green in there.
So you never even played it? See?
You just bought it.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
I wasn't going to touch it.
No, don't touch it.
I was just pointing at it.
Well, don't point even.
Don't even point?
No, it can't be played. Never. I mean,
Can I look at it?
No.
There's one in Elvis Presley's Clam Bake movie.
All right, everybody, get them while they're hot. Lobsters, clams, chicken, shrimp, and bikinis, too. Hey, listen, world, you gotta know. I'm cutting loose and letting go.
And they seem to show up. Phil X plays one in the Fred Americana videos. Joe Bonamassa plays like a 66 blocked and pound Seafoam Green Jazzmaster in one of his Nerdville videos. Even Kirk Hammett, I think, has like a 64 Strat in Seafoam green, but still extremely rare and rare to see an original up for sale. So let's see what we got here. Some really, really expensive custom shops. So we've got a $8,000 Esquire. So it's a Ron Thorne built. So Ron Thorne, of course, was an independent builder for a while, and then he joined the Fender custom shop. And it's a trans Seafoam green. That's kind of cool. And it's an Esquire, but it's got 2 pickups in it. So maybe someone added something. And here we got a precision bass. It's obviously a refin. So it's a tortoise guard. So that meant it was probably sunburst finish, or it could have been blonde, ollie white, or black. But probably sunburst, the standard finish. So let's just see if there's any kind of note where they show you if it was a factory refin or something like that. Cool looking guitar nonetheless. Yeah, it definitely looked like a sunburst. Refinished Seafoam green, doesn't say anything, it's probably an amateur job. Still cool, but $7 grand, it's a lot for a refin. Some nice looking vintage style custom shops. A lot of custom shops, but definitely doesn't look like anything's legit. We'll just check the second page just to make sure there isn't some kind of refin or oddball model that's hiding somewhere. Yeah, looks like a lot of custom shop relics in Seafoam green. Okay, well that brings us to the final color, Surf green, which in my opinion, take this with a grain of salt, because I'm just a middle-aged guitar nerd sitting at my house on the internet, looking at guitars, lusting after them. I'm not an OG guitar dealer that's seen these guitars in person and dealt with thousands of these examples and probably saw stuff that would blow your mind that we wouldn't even imagine existed. I know that I'm kind of seeing this secondhand, but from my research, Surf green is probably one of the rarest Fender colors of all time. Pretty close to shell pink, in fact. Now, it's hard to tell Surf green sometimes because a lot of those guitars, if there's a clear coat, they'll yellow out. So they'll either go like a really light fade to them, or they'll brighten up and they'll turn like this rich orangey hue from the yellowing of the clear coat into like a Seafoam green. So sometimes the guitars are misidentified, and that happens a lot with custom colors. And this is one of the reasons like I like doing these videos, is because I kind of show how these guitars can shift in color and how they're kind of hard to identify and they get confused a lot. So let's just take a stab at it. Let's look and see if there's Surf green. This is one of the rarest, so I doubt it. Yeah, we'll do price high to low and see if we got anything pop up here. Oh, I think we might have one. 1965 Fender Stratocaster Surf green, owned by Brian Setzer. Okay, well, let's take a look at this. And I know that they had the shop, so I guess they posted some new stuff, because I remember I checked before and like everything sold immediately on that shop. Wow, cool. So transition logo, 65 Strat. Now, okay, like I said, don't take my word for it, but I'm looking at this listing and this thing looks Seafoam green all day to me. This is not a Surf green guitar. Now, who am I to say? I mean, I think all the official shops are run by Chicago Music Exchange. I think those are the guys behind Reverb. They know what they're doing. They handle vintage guitars all day. So who am I to say? But man, this really looks like Seafoam green and not Surf green. Like I was just saying, there's a possibility, okay, it was Surf green and then it faded, but man, let's take a look at this. Let's see what's going on. So transition logo, and yeah, I'm looking at this neck pickup. So here's the pocket here. This is kind of what you're looking for when you're looking at vintage color Fenders, is you want to see that paint stick. And that paint stick shadow shows what the guitar might have been. And what we're seeing is the original yellow stain that's actually part of the sealer. They would used to dip all of their bodies that were receiving three-tone sunburst finishes, which meant all their alder bodies pretty much. They would dip it in a vat of yellow dyed sealer. And then around this period, 64, 65, they started also spraying the yellow over that dye and doing the rest of the three-tone sunburst. So they're kind of less translucent, they're more opaque on there. But this one looks like, you can see it's matching the color of the top. That's why I think this is a Seafoam green. Now, it might be the lighting in the pictures. It could be my monitor. So here we see a picture of the neck heel stamping. It's a model number 2. That's not the date. So Stratocaster at the time, it did change, I think. But the Stratocaster at this time was model number 2. Neck was made in December of 64. It's a B nut width, which is your standard nut width. So we're looking at the pots, looking at the back cavity, so that's sprayed over. So you want to see if maybe it was sprayed over at one time. And it's got those interesting CTS pots. I hope they reissue those some days. Those are cool. Looks like there might have been some touch up here, some routing markings. You're looking to see if there's a refin etching. They usually burned it in with a soldering iron into the finish. But looks like there's tape with stuff over it. It's white primered and there's no sunburst. So a lot of the times you will see a sunburst. There's no black or red poking through here. Okay, so now there's something weird going on here. So these are the things you want to look at when you're trying to legitimize an original Fender, especially a custom color. So they show that there's an odd seam suggesting an added veneer that is painted over. That is really strange because they did shim their necks. In fact, almost all vintage Fender guitars have a little fiber shim that sits usually towards a neck pocket, but it was placed wherever they needed to break the neck angle. Especially on like a Jaguar, a Jazzmaster, they really needed an added neck angle there. That's kind of odd that they're saying that they might have added a shim. So maybe possibly the body was routed too deep and they needed to raise the whole neck up. But for me, in a production environment, that just seems like something that they would throw out. So that's kind of odd. It looks like on the pickguard somebody etched, what does that say? It looks like Rex something. So the guy etched his name in the pickguard, Rex. I can't read the last name. That's cool. So again, seam from possible shim. So there's something kind of weird going on with the neck pocket, but it has the paint stick shadow. And what that paint stick was basically a piece of flattened electrical conduit that they would attach onto the bodies. They'd hammer that flat and they would paint the bodies, and then there would be like this Christmas tree carousel with all these rods sticking out, and they would take the conduit and put it on that carousel and they would dry the bodies out and they could wheel it around the shop. So a little bit of touch up on there, but man, it's a cool looking guitar. Earlier case, it's got like a blonde case to it. So is it legit? I think it is. I think it's an original 65 custom color Strat. 60,000, marked down to 50,000, what a deal! And it's coming from Brian Setzer, but there's something going on with the neck pocket. Brian, that's a shady dude, man. Brian Setzer, don't trust that guy, man. He's a shade ball. Please, call me out on this. This isn't surf green. It could be the yellowing of the clear coat, but I honestly think what we have here is a guitar that was white primered, sprayed foam green, and then just buffed out the base color coat. I don't think there's any clear coat on this guitar. I think they sprayed a thicker base coat, because look, there's no shadow. You look under that pickguard, there's absolutely no shadow on that. Usually, if the guitar has a clear coat and is exposed to sunlight, when you start removing these parts, you see a huge difference in the tone. You'll see the original color. The neck pocket under the pickguard, it's the same exact shade of green. This is not surf green. This is an original 65 Seafoam green Stratocaster owned by Brian Setzer. So nonetheless, extremely, extremely cool. Who knows what's going on with that neck pocket. The body of this instrument appears to exhibit a Fender factory original custom color surf green finish. Areas of overspray. Majority of the body appears to exhibit the type of, I feel like I'm reading like a lawyer's dossier or something. It's very, very written very correctly. We're assuming it exhibits. Yeah, because I mean, we're talking big money. We're talking $50K for a guitar. Yeah, really cool. Let's see what else. The Brian Setzer shop. So they might have new stuff. I remember he had a bunch of Gretches up there, and they're pretty much all sold. Yeah, all this stuff is like sold. It went really quick because there actually were decent prices on it. And these are probably guitars that Gretsch gave to him. But man, look at this. The Echosonic amp. Oh, that's cool. 54 Echosonic. I think that was made by Ray Butts, who made some early pickups and early tape delays. That's really cool. Wow. I hope he has another one of those, because that is a rare and cool amp. I think Scotty Moore played one of these Echosonics as well with Elvis Presley and the Jordanaires. And then we got another vintage custom color Strat. So we're getting a twofer here. We have a 62 Daphne Blue. I don't know, guys. It looks kind of Sonic Blue to me. I think it's Daphne Blue. So what we got here? Do we have anything going on? Looks like the tuners were replaced at one point. There's some kind of weird halo going on there. Now, Sonic Blue is a bit different. It was very common on Sonic Blue and Daphne Blue guitars to not have any undercoat. And this looks like there might have been, see, they got it taken apart. Again, not much of a change here. So look at how light underneath the pickguard it is. Now, some yelling. Yeah, this is probably Daphne Blue. It could be Sonic. Nonetheless, another cool guitar. Again, $50K. Some rare custom color strats. And nonetheless, owned by Brian Setzer, who is, in my opinion, one of the best guitarists out there. He is, I mean, he blows me away at how good he is. I mean, that he can play with big bands. He plays rockabilly. He knows all the crazy chords. And he's just like Mark Knopfler saying about, he knows all the chords. Now, I don't know if we can do any better than that. We saw some cool guitars today. We saw two legit original custom color strats from the 60s owned by Brian Setzer. So what could you ask for? I think that'll be enough for today, but we will go custom color shopping again. We'll focus on maybe some of the blues and the reds and see what we can find. So thanks again for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, all that crap that people tell you to do. Really trying to grow this channel. Hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you want to see. This is Nick Palezzo, your Hopeless Guitar Enthusiast, signing off. And until next time, I'll see you in hell.